Hello everyone, my apologies for the previous video, April Fools, if you hadn't realised that already. There is no change in the content and so forth that's going to be coming up, and I haven't bought myself a Land Rover, nor do I intend to, at least not in the short term. The collection is staying and we're carrying on as normal. As I say, please forgive me for that. What we're looking at here is the Mannequin of the month for April 2020, and we have another Commonwealth, another Dominion mannequin here, representing a private in the 2nd 10th Battalion, the 2nd Australian Imperial Force in the UK in 1940. Now, the deployment of Australian troops at the start of the Second World War was a little haphazard, in as far as they were, obviously, Australia raised new units, the 2nd Imperial Force, to be deployed in support of Britain in the war effort. In the middle of 1940, there was a fairly significant change in the geostrategic situation, if you want to call it that, and Australian troops were diverted to the United Kingdom. Some Australian troops were diverted to the United Kingdom from having been deployed to go to the Middle East. Ships were diverted to the United Kingdom to bolster the defences following the fall of France. And that's what we have here, is a setup based upon photographs of the 2nd 10th Battalion deployed in the UK in the middle to late 1940. We'll start at the top and work down as we normally do. We have here a standard Mark II helmet. Moving down, look at the uniform itself. We have the standard Australian service dress jacket from the time period, essentially a smartened up version of that which had been worn in the First World War. There are detailed differences, including the belt no longer having a belt buckle and so forth, and the change to the buttons. Generally changes which had been introduced to smarten it up and make a slightly smarter uniform. And this would be worn, obviously, until would be worn right the way through the war. A slightly modified version would come out in 1943. But this is, as I say, fairly standard for Australian troops during the Second World War in relatively temperate climates. Obviously, the majority of the later war operations were in jungle environments where you would see jungle uniform. But this is a standard Australian service dress of the time. We have the collar badges there, as you can see, the Rising Sun collar badge. And you'll see as we move around, we have patches on the arms and Australia titles. You'll see those on the arms as we move the uniform round. It's a 4-pocket jacket, so we have 2 breast pockets, 2 head pockets there. On the chest here, we have a Mark V respirator haversack, and this is obviously attached and worn at the alert position with the cord passed around the body, the shoulder strap pulled up at the back, pulled down at the back to pull it up on the chest, worn at the alert position. And the web equipment carried, of course, is the 1908 pattern web equipment. Missing the entrenching tool and so forth, obviously that had been withdrawn into war, and at this time the 2-part entrenching tool hadn't been reintroduced, so we don't have that, but otherwise in a very standard sort of battle order setup, as you'll see as we move this round. No anti-gas cape is worn. You would normally be able to see that across the shoulders, even looking at this from the front. And the reason for that is the photograph I'm basing this on of the 2nd 10th Battalion. They are wearing respirators, they're carrying respirators at the alert, it would seem. You can see the cords running around the back. However, the gas capes don't appear to be worn at all. They're not being worn across the shoulders. The reasoning for that, I don't know. They are in a training scenario on Salisbury Plain. So the photograph I will link in a pinned comment down below. It's available on Wikimedia Commons. So it's freely available in that regard, and I can link to it down below, and I will do. It's the same image I've used as the thumbnail for this video. We'll move this round now and we'll have a look at the left-hand side. Looking at the left-hand side of the mannequin here, we can see, first of all, up on the epaulet, we have the shoulder title, and we'll have a look at these in detail in just a minute. And on the arm here, you can see the patch of the 2nd 10th Battalion. This is essentially the same patch as that worn by the 10th Battalion and the 1st Australian Imperial Force during the Great War, but the added grey background is what denotes the 2nd 10th. The original battalion designations had been perpetuated by the militia in Australia, by the civilian military forces, and it was decided that obviously this modification to the patch would be introduced for the 2nd AIF to differentiate from the original battalions which had been raised. So the grey border is what denotes that. Otherwise, as I say, you have this sort of the sleeve of the uniform coming down there. You can see the cuff, the simple button cuff there, the Australia, showing the Australian mainland there with the crown above. So we'll have a close-up of those now. Here you can see a close-up showing both the patch and the shoulder title. And here we have a close-up of one of the buttons as well. And finally, you can see here a close-up of the collar badge. If we lift up the arm here, we can see the cartridge carriers, the 1908 pattern web equipment around the side there. and the bayonet in its frog, obviously missing the helve here, not on issue at the time. And that is the left-hand side of the mannequin. We'll have a look at the back now. Looking at the back of the mannequin here, we can see the 1908 pattern web equipment is worn in battle order with the haversack on the back. No mess tins or anything. Again, this is based directly off the photograph of the 2nd 10th Battalion upon which this mannequin is based, and as already said, no entrenching tool because it wasn't carried in this time period. It wasn't on issue. We can also see the cord here and the back of the strap. We just lift the helmet slightly, back of the strap for the respirator haversack there. Obviously this being the method for wearing it at the alert on the chest. And we'll move this round now and have a look at the right hand side. Looking at the right hand side of the mannequin, we can see again the patch of the 2nd 10th Battalion on the arm there, and the shoulder title again up on the shoulder there. Again, nothing really more to see in terms of detail of the uniform there, but if we lift the arm out of the way, we have the cartridge carriers on this side and then the water bottle down below on the brace ends in its carrier. As I say, nothing particularly special there. It's the enamel water bottle in felt cover, as I say, still standard at the time. So that is what we have on the right hand side of the mannequin here. So there we are, that is the mannequin of the month for April 2020. Voted on Patreon, of course, as is usual. This was the clear winner this month. And as I say, an interesting one to look at. A lot of people aren't aware of the deployment of Australian and New Zealand troops to the UK in the very start of very early in the Second World War. So this is an example of that, of what the uniform was at the time. And obviously Australia is still using the 1908 pattern web equipment at this time. They certainly arrived with it in the UK. 1937 pattern took a little while, it was still very new to the British Army, took a little while to spread around Empire and Dominion forces. And interesting to remember from that point of view, I don't think it's a very well remembered deployment of Australian troops to the UK in 1940, so perhaps interesting from that point of view as well. I do hope you have found it interesting. Obviously, if you do find my uploads interesting and you like this sort of content and you'd like to see more, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done already. Obviously, hit the little bell next to the subscribe button as well, the notification button, which will alert you when I upload future videos. There is, of course, also a Patreon and a PayPal link down below should you wish to support the channel. It's very much appreciated, everyone who has done. If you really like my uploads and you'd like to support the channel in that way, it really is greatly appreciated. And obviously, those who subscribe to the Corporal tier on Patreon are the people who vote on what we get each month in terms of mannequin of the month on a poll over there. There's also social media for the channel. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, all linked down below. There'll be photographs of this over there as well, and also an email address down below should you wish to get in touch with me but you don't really use social media. There's that option as well. All of those linked in the description of the video. But that's everything I wanted to cover this time, so until next time, bye for now.